The massive alien warship Star Seeker hung silently in the darkness of space, its metallic hull gleaming under the distant starlight. Admiral Gray stood on the command bridge, his four eyes fixed on the main screen while his secondary arms tapped rhythmically on the control panel. "Commander," a junior officer called out, their antenna twitching with excitement. "Unknown vessel detected at Sector 7. It's small, sir. Very small." Admiral Gray's scaled skin shifted from its usual pale blue to a more alert green. "Show me," he ordered, his voice deep and commanding. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a tiny merchant vessel painted in cheerful white and blue colors. It was barely the size of their ship's shuttle bay, hardly worth noting except for one detail: it was in their territory without proper clearance. "Life sign scans?" Admiral Gray asked, following standard first contact procedures. The science officer's fingers danced across the holographic controls. "2 signatures, sir. One appears to be interesting." The officer paused, rechecking the readings. "One matches known Bechtel patterns, likely the pilot. But the second..." The officer's antenna went rigid with concern. "The second shows markers of an apex predator, sir. High muscle density, sharp canines, enhanced olfactory capabilities." Admiral Gray's scales darkened. Everyone in the galaxy knew the stories about humans. The Deathworlders, the Space Orcs, the creatures who lived on a planet that should have killed them. And now one had wandered into their space, carrying what could only be a weapon of war. "Battle stations," he commanded. "Prepare boarding parties. Full armor and weapons, whatever beast they'd brought with them. We must be ready." Red lights flashed throughout the massive warship as soldiers rushed to their positions. The boarding party, led by Lieutenant Stone, assembled in the launch bay, each warrior wearing the latest in protective gear. Their armor could withstand plasma blasts, yet their hands shook slightly as they checked their weapons. Inside the small merchant vessel, Tom Wilson was completely unaware of the commotion he had caused. The 32-year-old trader was doing what he always did during long space journeys, playing fetch with his golden retriever puppy, Max. "Good boy." Tom laughed as Max brought back the floating space ball, the puppy's tail wagging in zero gravity. "Who's the best space traveler?" "You are." Max barked happily, his puppy energy uncontained even in the small ship's cabin. The 3-month-old retriever had been Tom's companion since he'd started this trading route, and he couldn't imagine making these long trips without his furry friend. The ship's computer chimed softly. "Unknown vessel approaching. Attempt at communication detected." Tom straightened up, quickly securing Max's floating harness to keep him safe. "Accept communication," he said, trying to look professional despite the puppy toys floating around his cabin. Before the communication could connect, Tom's ship shuddered. The familiar sensation of a docking procedure caught him off guard. He hadn't authorized any docking. "Warning. External override of docking systems detected," the computer announced calmly. Max tilted his head curiously at the sound of heavy footsteps echoing through the hull. Tom reached for his puppy, holding him close as the airlock cycled. The doors slid open with a hiss, revealing a squad of heavily armed alien soldiers. Their armor was impressive, covered in glowing lines, and bristling with weapons. Lieutenant Stone led the team, weapon raised, all 4 eyes scanning the cabin. "Human," the alien officer called out. "You have entered restricted space. Surrender, and..." The lieutenant's voice trailed off as Max let out an excited bark, his tail wagging furiously at the sight of new friends. The alien soldiers took a collective step back. Their weapons tracked the puppy's movement as Max strained against his harness, trying to greet the visitors. "By the stars," Lieutenant Stone whispered. "The beast. It's already loose." Tom looked down at Max, then back at the terrified aliens. "Oh no," he said, finally understanding the situation. "This isn't what you think." "It's is showing its teeth," one of the soldiers screamed as Max smiled his puppy smile, tongue lolling out happily. The boarding party retreated in panic, sealing the airlock behind them. Tom could hear them running back to their ship, their heavy boots clanging on the metal walkway. Max tilted his head, let out a confused whimper, and then tried to chase his tail in zero gravity. Tom sighed, scratching behind Max's ears. "Well, boy, looks like we're in for an interesting day." Back on the Star Seeker Lieutenant Stone's boarding team burst onto the bridge, their armor smoking slightly from how quickly they'd activated their emergency return protocols. Admiral Gray turned all four eyes toward them, his scales shifting to a concerned purple. "Report," the Admiral demanded. "What kind of weapon are we dealing with?" Lieutenant Stone took several deep breaths before speaking. "Sir, the beast. It's unlike anything we've seen. It's small, but our scanners indicate it's not fully grown." "And it?" The lieutenant shuddered. "It tried to use some kind of psychological warfare. It kept displaying its teeth while moving its rear appendage in a hypnotic pattern." Admiral Gray's scales paled. "Show me the scan data." The main screen flickered to life, displaying the biological readout of Max. Red highlights marked what the computer identified as concerning features: powerful jaw muscles, keen sense of smell, sharp teeth, and high intelligence markers. But what worried them most was the genetic analysis. "Sir," the science officer pointed at the screen with a trembling hand. "The creature shares DNA patterns with ancient apex predators. The humans have somehow weaponized the descendant of one of the most successful hunting species in known galaxy history." On the smaller ship, Tom was trying his best to make sense of the situation. Max had settled down for a nap in his zero-gravity bed, tiny paws twitching as he dreamed of chasing space squirrels. The communication system crackled to life. A stern alien face appeared on the screen. "Admiral Gray." "Human traitor." The Admiral's voice was cold. "You will explain the purpose of bringing a military-grade biological weapon into our territory." Tom blinked in confusion. "Military-grade what now?" "Do not play innocent. Our scans have revealed the truth about your beast." The Admiral's scales rippled with anger. "What is its activation sequence?" As if on cue, Max woke up from his nap. The puppy yawned widely, showing all his tiny teeth, then began scratching behind his ear with his back leg. The alien bridge crew gasped in horror. "It's performing some kind of combat preparation ritual," someone screamed off-screen. Tom couldn't help but laugh, which only made the situation worse. The aliens interpreted his amusement as sinister confidence. "You find this amusing, human?" Admiral Gray's voice grew even colder. "Perhaps you would like to demonstrate its capabilities." "Look," Tom said, trying to keep a straight face. "There's been a huge misunderstanding. This is Max. He's my puppy. My pet. He's only 3 months old." The bridge went silent. Then Admiral Gray spoke again. "You mean to tell us this is an INFAN2 weapon?" No. Tom waved his hands. "He's not a weapon at all. Here, let me show you." Tom reached into his pocket and pulled out a treat. Max's ears perked up immediately, and he paddled through the zero gravity toward Tom. The alien crew watched in horror as Tom held up the small brown biscuit. "They're using some kind of chemical trigger," the science officer shouted. "The beast responds to it." "Sit, Max," Tom commanded. The puppy sat obediently in his floating harness, tail wagging. Admiral Gray's scales turned almost white. It follows verbal commands. They've achieved perfect control over it." "Good boy," Tom praised, giving Max his treat. The puppy crunched it happily, sending tiny crumbs floating around the cabin. "The beast has been rewarded for its combat stance," Lieutenant Stone observed, taking notes. "They use positive reinforcement for military training." Tom wanted to bang his head against the wall. Instead, he picked up Max's favorite toy, a squeaky space shuttle. The moment he squeezed it, making it squeak, Max barked excitedly. The alien crew ducked behind their consoles. It's NJG'd, it's Sonesi. Someone yelled. For the last time, Tom said, holding up the still squeaking toy while Max tried to catch it. He's just a regular puppy. Don't you have pets where you come from? Admiral Gray's expression changed to something like pity. You poor, violent species. You've convinced yourself that weaponized apex predators are companions. He turned to his crew. This is worse than we thought. They've normalized living with killers. As Max finally caught his toy and began happily chewing it, Tom realized this was going to be a very long day indeed. Space around Tom's small trading vessel was getting crowded. In the last hour, 6 more alien warships had jumped into the sector, their massive hulls forming a ring around his tiny ship. Each vessel was at least 50 times larger than his trader, their weapon ports glowing with barely contained energy. Admiral Gray stood proudly on his bridge as the reinforcements arrived. The fleet is in position, sir, reported his tactical officer. The human vessel is completely surrounded. Excellent. The Admiral's scales shifted to a confident blue. Now we'll see how dangerous this puppy weapon really is. Inside his ship, Tom was sitting cross-legged in the air, floating near his view screen, while Max dozed nearby, little paws paddling as he chased dream rabbits. The puppy's sleeping form somehow managed to look even less threatening than when he was awake, which Tom hadn't thought possible. The communication screen lit up again, showing not just Admiral Gray this time, but a panel of serious-looking alien military officials. Human Tom, Admiral Gray announced formally. The High Command has assembled to witness the capabilities of your biological weapon. You will now activate the beast at full power, or we will be forced to take extreme measures. Tom pinched the bridge of his nose. Look, for the 100th time, Max is not. The human resists, one of the other officials declared. Clearly, they're protecting military secrets. Max chose that moment to wake up. He yawned, stretched in zero gravity, and then noticed his reflection in one of the ship's panels. The puppy tilted his head in confusion, then playfully barked at himself. The alien officials recoiled in their seats. It's using sonic pulses to communicate with hidden forces. Tom grabbed Max's floating form and hugged him close. The puppy immediately tried to lick his face. The only hidden force here is his endless supply of kisses, Tom muttered. Chemical warfare, another official screamed. The beast is attempting to dissolve the human's face. The situation was getting out of hand. Tom could see the alien ship's weapons charging up through his viewport. He needed to do something. Fast. Okay. Tom raised his hands in surrender. You want to see what Max can do? I'll show you. But please, power down your weapons first. The alien officials consulted among themselves in hurried whispers. Finally, Admiral Gray nodded. Agreed. But any sign of hostile action, and we will not hesitate to respond. Tom reached for Max's treat bag, causing several alien officers to duck under their desks. He couldn't help but notice that these supposedly fearsome military leaders were terrified of dog biscuits. Max, Tom called, holding up a treat. Want to show these nice aliens your tricks? Max's tail began wagging so hard his whole body wiggled in zero gravity. The alien officials gasped at what they interpreted as pre-attack vibrations. Sit, Tom commanded. Max sat perfectly in his floating harness. The beast assumes attack position. One official noted frantically. Roll over, Tom said next. Max did a perfect zero-gravity roll, thoroughly enjoying himself. By the stars, it can manipulate gravitational fields. Give me your paw. Tom held out his hand. Max placed his soft puppy paw in Tom's palm. Physical combat training. It's practicing death strikes. Tom was about to demonstrate play dead when a new alarm started blaring through both ships. The tactical officer burst onto the bridge screen. Multiple ships detected dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They reported urgently. They're human vessels, Admiral. Through the viewport, Tom could see 3 Earth Trading Federation ships materializing. They were much smaller than the alien warships, but still dwarfed his little trader. He recognized the lid ship. It belonged to his friend Mike, who also happened to have a ship's cat. Admiral Gray's scales turned a panic-stricken white. More humans, with more beasts. He turned to his officials. Our intel suggests many humans keep multiple combat creatures. As if to confirm their worst fears, Max got excited at seeing the new ships and began barking happily, his tail wagging even faster. It's calling for reinforcements. The alien command center erupted in chaos. Tom just sighed and scratched Max behind the ears. "Well, boy," he whispered to his puppy, "things are about to get a lot more interesting." The 3 human ships had taken position near Tom's small trader, creating a standoff with the alien fleet. The space between them crackled with tension. On the main communication screen, which was now split between multiple parties, Admiral Gray faced not only Tom but also Captain Mike from the lead human vessel. "So let me get this straight," Mike said, trying not to laugh. "You think Tom's golden retriever puppy is a weapon of mass destruction? We are not fooled by your attempts at deception." Admiral Gray's scales rippled with determination. "We demand a full demonstration of the beast's capabilities. All of them." Mike's ship's cat, Mr. Whiskers, chose that moment to walk across his control panel, its tail held high. The alien command center erupted in fresh panic. "Another biological weapon," someone screamed. "This one moves with complete silence." Tom exchanged looks with Mike through the screen. They both knew they needed to defuse this situation before it got even more out of hand. "All right," Tom said, holding up his hands. "You want a full demonstration. I'll give you one, but you have to promise not to fire on any of our ships, no matter what you see." The alien officials huddled together in discussion. Finally, Admiral Gray nodded. "Proceed. Show us the full combat capabilities of your puppy weapon." Tom took a deep breath. Max, front and center. Max, who had been chasing his tail in 0 gravity, paddled over excitedly. "First combat form," Tom announced dramatically, trying not to smile. "Maximum cuteness." Max tilted his head and perked up his ears, his big puppy eyes shining. Several junior alien officers cooed involuntarily before being silenced by their superiors. "It's using psychological warfare," an official warned. "Don't look directly at its visual attack." "Second combat form," Tom continued. "Belly rub configuration." Max rolled over in his 0 gravity harness, exposing his fluffy belly, paws waving in the air. "The beast shows its soft underside," Lieutenant Stone reported. "Clearly a trap to lower our defenses." "Now witness his most powerful technique," Tom said, reaching for a squeaky toy. "The full power of fetch." He squeezed the toy, making it squeak, and tossed it. Max paddled through the air after it, caught it in his mouth, and brought it back proudly. The alien command center was in complete disarray. It can retrieve objects at high speed. The sonic weapon is combined with retrieval capabilities. Think of the military applications. Admiral Gray's scales had turned a nervous shade of green. "And this is just an infant specimen." "Oh yes," Mike chimed in, deciding to have some fun too. "Wait until you see what they can do when they're fully grown. They can even learn to open doors." The horror on the alien officials' faces was priceless. "But the most dangerous ability," Tom added, barely keeping a straight face, "is yet to come. Max, play dead." Max flopped over in his harness, tongue lolling out, completely still except for the occasional tail wag he couldn't quite suppress. The alien fleet immediately backed up several thousand kilometers. "Ich hate self-destruct capabilities," Admiral Gray shouted. "All ships, maintain safe distance." "And now, the final technique," Tom announced. "Maximum revival. Max, wake up." Max immediately came back to life, barking happily and trying to lick Tom's face. By the ancient stars, an official fainted. It can resurrect itself. The alien command center dissolved into complete chaos. Reports were being frantically filed about immortal combat beasts the humans kept as pets. Strategic analysts were recalculating the entire military balance of the galaxy based on the apparently infinite combat potential of puppies. Through it all, Max just wagged his tail, proud of performing his tricks well, completely unaware that he had just been classified as the most dangerous weapon in 5 sectors. Mr. Whiskers, watching from Mike's ship, merely yawned and went back to sleep, which the aliens interpreted as entering stealth mode. "Should we tell them about dog parks?" Mike whispered through a private channel to Tom, "where humans gather hundreds of these weapons to train together." Tom shook his head, scratching Max behind the ears. "Let's save something for the peace negotiations. I think their minds have been blown enough for one day." Max barked in agreement, sending another wave of panic through the alien fleet. News traveled fast in space. Within hours, the standoff between the human ships and alien fleet had become the biggest story in 7 star systems. The alien homeworld's High Council had convened an emergency session, their massive meeting chamber filled with worried representatives. On the main display screen, footage of Max's weapon demonstration played on repeat. Each time Max caught his toy or rolled over, analysts pointed out supposed military capabilities. Meanwhile, more human ships had arrived. Each one, to the aliens' growing horror, seemed to have at least one pet aboard. "The situation is grave," announced High Counselor Blue, his scales shifting anxiously. "Our initial scout ships have reported human vessels approaching from 3 sectors, and our scans indicate. He stuttered, checking his notes. 87 different combat beasts. The chamber erupted in fearful whispers. In reality, the approaching human ships just carried the normal complement of cats, dogs, hamsters, and one particularly friendly parrot. Back at the standoff, Tom had been declared the official human representative, mostly because Max was the one who had started this whole situation. He now found himself in a 4-way video conference with Admiral Gray, the High Council, and the Human Trading Federation's hastily appointed diplomatic team. "Let me be clear," High Counselor Blue said gravely. "You expect us to believe that these highly evolved predator species are kept in your homes, near your young." "Well, yes," Tom replied. "Max here helps watch over my nephew when he visits." He immediately realized this was the wrong thing to say. "They use the beasts to guard their HFY." Someone screamed. "The indoctrination starts in infancy." Through another view screen, Captain Mike's parrot, Professor Peaches, decided to show off his vocabulary. "Who's a good boy? Polly wants a cracker." The alien council nearly fainted. They've taught their aerial units to speak. Tom rubbed his temples. The situation was getting more ridiculous by the minute. On his lap, Max had fallen asleep, tiny puppy snores making the alien military officers flinch with each breath. "The weapon has entered some kind of power-saving mode," Lieutenant Stone reported seriously, taking detailed notes. Just then, another human ship arrived. This one belonged to Tom's neighbor, Linda, who ran a mobile pet grooming service. Her ship's external cameras were unfortunately broadcasting her current job, giving a German shepherd a bath. They have maintenance facilities for their combat units. An alien analyst shouted, "Look at the size of that beast." The German shepherd, enjoying its bath, shook off some water. Linda's camera caught the spray of water droplets in the light. It can generate its own weather systems. Another analyst added to the growing list of supposed weapon capabilities. The High Council was now in complete disarray. Some members advocated for immediate surrender to the humans before their beast armies could be fully deployed. Others wanted to study this supposedly advanced warfare technology. A few suggested trying to trade for some combat units of their own. Tom noticed Admiral Gray watching Max sleep with an odd expression. "Is it The Admiral asked quietly through a private channel, "Is it true that they respond to physical affection? Would you like to pet him?" Tom offered. The entire alien fleet held its breath as Admiral Gray, decorated military commander of the 3rd Space Fleet, carefully extended one scaled hand toward the sleeping puppy. Max, sensing a potential new friend, woke up just enough to lick the Admiral's hand before going back to sleep. The Admiral's scales turned a color Tom hadn't seen before, a soft, wondering pink. It's so gentle," Admiral Gray whispered, amazed. Then he caught himself and quickly switched back to his official tone. "This changes nothing. We still consider these creatures a potential threat." But Tom had seen it, the moment of connection, of understanding. Max had worked his puppy magic again. Through the main screen, the High Council was still debating frantically. They had moved on to discussing the implications of humans being able to command loyalty from other species. The fact that it was earned through love and treats, rather than force, somehow made it seem even more impressive to them. "Perhaps," Admiral Gray said quietly, still watching Max sleep, "we should consider a different approach to these negotiations." Tom smiled. Maybe there was hope for interspecies understanding after all. One puppy kiss at a time. Dr. Green, a junior alien scientist aboard the Star Seeker *, had been watching the events unfold with growing interest. Unlike her military colleagues, she had spent years studying various species across the galaxy. Something about this situation didn't add up. While the High Council continued their heated debate about the tactical implications of combat beasts, Dr. Green was reviewing historical Earth data. Her eyes widened as she pieced together the truth. "Admiral," she called out, her scales turning the bright yellow of scientific discovery, "I request permission to present my findings." Admiral Gray, who was still secretly wondering if he could pet Max again, nodded. "Proceed, Doctor." Dr. Green took a deep breath. This could either end her career or save everyone from a very unnecessary diplomatic crisis. "Honorable Council, fellow officers," she began, putting her research on the main screen. "I believe we've made a serious error in our assessment of the situation." She displayed ancient Earth images showing wolves hunting. "These are the ancestors of what we're calling combat units. They were indeed apex predators." She then switched to images of early human settlements. "But look at this. Humans didn't create weapons from these creatures. They formed partnerships with them." The council watched in fascination as she showed the progression. Wolves slowly becoming dogs, working alongside humans, eventually becoming the diverse breeds seen today. "They evolved together," Dr. Green explained. "The humans provided food and shelter, while these animals provided companionship and assistance. It wasn't a weapons program. It was a friendship that developed over thousands of years." "Impossible," shouted one council member. "No species would willingly form such bonds with predators." Tom decided to help prove the scientist's point. He took out his tablet and started showing pictures. A service dog helping a blind person, rescue dogs finding survivors in rubble, therapy dogs in hospitals, and finally, his own childhood photos with his first puppy. "This is Max's grandmother," Tom explained, showing a picture of an older golden retriever surrounded by puppies. "She was a therapy dog at a children's hospital. She spent her whole life making sick kids feel better." The aliens watched in stunned silence as Tom shared more photos. Dogs playing with babies, guarding sheep, simply being loyal friends. With each image, their understanding of the situation began to shift. But the teeth, the claws, the predator instincts. Lieutenant Stone asked, confused. Dr. Green stepped forward again. Those same traits that made them effective hunters also made them excellent protectors. The humans didn't suppress these instincts. They redirected them through love and training. It's actually quite brilliant. To demonstrate, she requested permission to approach Tom's ship. After proper safety protocols were observed, she entered the trader's cabin. Max immediately paddled over in his zero-gravity harness to greet her. The entire alien fleet watched through security cameras as Dr. Green experienced her first puppy interaction. Max sniffed her hand, gave her a gentle lick, and then rolled over for belly rubs. "Fascinating," she said, her scales turning pink with joy as she petted Max. "The physical contact releases pleasure hormones in both species. It's a mutually beneficial relationship." "That's what we've been trying to tell you," Tom said with a smile. "Dogs aren't weapons. They're family." Admiral Gray watched the scene with growing understanding. "But surely this makes your species even more remarkable," he said. "You took one of the galaxy's most efficient predators and turned them into friends." "Not just friends," Dr. Green corrected, now playing fetch with Max in zero gravity. "They've become partners in everything from healing to search and rescue. The humans didn't conquer them. They earned their loyalty through kindness." The High Council was silent for a long moment, processing this information. Finally, High Counselor Blue spoke. "Dr. Green, your findings suggest that humans have a unique ability to form deep bonds with other species. This is most impressive and slightly terrifying." Admiral Gray added, watching Max do a zero-gravity flip to catch his toy. "A species that can turn apex predators into loyal companions through love alone. Perhaps we should be glad they're friendly." Tom scratched Max behind the ears, making the puppy's back leg twitch in happiness. "Would anyone else like to meet him properly?" he offered. One by one, the alien officials began requesting permission to visit. A new kind of understanding was beginning to dawn, one built on wagging tails and puppy kisses rather than fear and weapons. 1 month after the infamous puppy incident, as it came to be known in diplomatic circles, the Grand Hall of the Alien High Council looked very different. Where once there had been only stern officials with shifting scales, there now sat several approved Earth pets alongside their alien companions. Admiral Gray, who had surprised everyone by becoming the strongest advocate for human-alien pet relations, sat at the main table with a golden retriever puppy sleeping at his feet. The puppy was Max's younger sister, officially registered as Diplomatic Ambassador Joy, but the Admiral just called her Princess. "The peace treaty's final draft is ready for review," announced High Counselor Blue, while absently petting a purring cat in his lap. His scales had permanently gained a slight pink tinge since adopting Mr. Whisker's cousin. Tom, now serving as the official human-alien pet relations ambassador, tried not to smile too broadly as he watched Max give dog training lessons to a group of alien officers. The now 6-month-old puppy was demonstrating the complex military maneuver known as shake hands. "The beast training programs are progressing well," Lieutenant Stone reported, having completely failed to stop calling them beasts. Though now the word was said with affection rather than fear. "Yesterday, my unit's emotional support beast successfully completed the Who's a Good Boy protocol." Dr. Green, recently promoted to head of xenobiology studies, was presenting her latest research. "As you can see," she gestured to her charts, "regular interaction with Earth pets has reduced stress levels among our people by 47%. Also, scale color changes now include 3 new shades of happy pink." The treaty itself was a remarkable document. Alongside standard diplomatic provisions, it included several unique clauses. Regular puppy play dates between human and alien ships. Exchange programs for pet training techniques. Emergency protocols for when the cat wants attention right now. Strict regulations on the proper ratio of treats to belly rubs. The most surprising change had happened in alien military training. Where once they had practiced combat drills, now many ships had designated pet zones where officers could relax with their animal companions. Some hardliners had protested this as going soft, until it was proven that crews with pets performed 60% better in stress situations. Tom watched as Max paddled through the zero-gravity chamber, now a professional at space movement, leading a line of alien puppies. They weren't really puppies, but rather small, furry alien creatures that had been adopted into the program. Each alien puppy wore a tiny training harness and followed Max with absolute dedication. To think, Admiral Gray said, standing beside Tom. We once thought he was a weapon of mass destruction. The Admiral's scales flickered between amused blue and embarrassed purple. Well, Tom grinned, you weren't entirely wrong. Max has destroyed quite a few chew toys. Through the grand windows of the council hall, they could see the space station's new intergalactic pet park, a massive zero-gravity playground where humans and aliens gathered to let their pets play together. The sight of dogs, cats, and various alien creatures chasing floating toys together had become a symbol of their newfound unity. The humans have a saying, Dr. Green commented, reviewing her latest data. Who rescued who? Our studies suggest the forming of these bonds has been equally beneficial to both species. The peace treaty was signed with proper ceremony, though it was briefly delayed when Mr. Whiskers decided the document made an excellent napping spot. No one dared move him until he finished his nap. Some traditions were now sacred. As the ceremony concluded, Max performed his final official duty of the day, distributing puppy kisses to all dignitaries present. The sight of serious alien officials waiting in line for their turn had become surprisingly normal. You know, Admiral Gray said, watching his princess play with Max, when we first encountered your ship, we thought we'd discovered humanity's greatest weapon. He smiled, his scales glowing with warm pink. We just didn't realize that the weapon wasn't the beast itself, but rather humanity's capacity for love and friendship. Tom scratched Max behind the ears, watching as alien children, properly supervised, took turns throwing floating balls for the dogs to chase. Sometimes the best way to defeat fear isn't with more fear, he said. Sometimes all you need is a wagging tail and a loving heart. As if to prove his point, Max barked happily, sending ripples of joy through the assembled crowd. No one flinched this time. They were too busy smiling. Unleash the beast. Admiral Gray chuckled. More like unleash the love.